Welcome to a brand new episode of the Oracles. My name is Manelisi, and unfortunately, the incredible and beautiful superstar Oracle Zima Zibugo is not able to join us, but hopefully she'll be able to come in a bit later on. So we are back once again this week, and this week we have our very first guest from Europe this year. He also happens to be our very first musical guest who does indie pop. And on top of that, it does indie rock, it does synth pop, new wave, and disco. So this is uncharted territory for us. This young man was born in Italy and has been living in London for the last 10 years. So far, he has released one EP called A Fading Light and several singles. His latest single was released in August. His music is just incredible, and I have to say, that his voice is absolutely perfect. But today, the Oracles are honored to bring to you a rising star, a man on a one way path to success. He's here today to take us through his musical journey and usher us into a totally new musical world for us. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to us from Italy, his government name is Eduardo Faini, but we know him as Edho. Edo, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you so much. It's great to be on the podcast. It's great to be speaking with you.
Yeah, no, man. I'm happy to have you here with us. I actually forgot to confirm how I pronounce your name. Is Edo
Yeah,
the right
that's
pronunciation?
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, awesome. So, where in Italy were you born actually? And why did you choose to move to England? But I understand right
yeah,
now you're based in England, but you're back in Italy visiting family.
yeah, yeah. I keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
So I was born in Brescia. It's a town near Milan in the north of Italy. And I stayed here until I was 19. And I moved to London as soon as I started university. Well, the main reason was music. So in Italy, we grew up listening to English music with dream if you're a musician to just go to London and you make your music career there. So that was the main idea. I had other cities in mind first, but then I visited London for the first time as an adult when I was 18, like choosing where to go next here to university. And yeah, I fell in love with the city, and I stayed there for 10 years. I went through university first, and I kept doing music. I had different projects. And then eventually, a few years ago, I started more of my solo career, and that's where Edho came from.
And,
Um,
and, and which university did you go to?
so I went to City University London.
Oh,
It's like central East London near Shoreditch.
yeah. All right. And what are you studying? What did you study there?
Yeah, I actually study business management. So I went to London with like the dream of being a musician, but the practical objective of doing business in the music industry.
Yeah.
So I did management, and then I studied entrepreneurship, more of how to create startups. And then I did different jobs while doing music, and then it came to the point where I just accepted that I just wanted to follow my true dream, which was being an artist and
Just
not working for artists.
so basically, the plan is, or is this something that just came along that you arrived in London like 10 years ago, you were 19 as a student, and you've been there for like the past 10 years. Has there been any thought about going back home to Italy, or did you just decide that actually this is where I want to be now?
Actually, in the last year, so very recently, I decided to relocate back in Europe. Um, so I'm currently residing in Zurich,
Yeah.
in Switzerland. Um, but it was more the idea that I wanted to explore other cities, and like I felt I missed a little bit Europe. Italy, I have the luck to be able to come back and forth whenever I want. My family is here, So I don't feel the need to move and live and reside in Italy. I can enjoy the best of my country by coming just for holidays without dealing with the hectic or difficult stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, officially I relocated to Switzerland, but as a move to be able to not have to be just in one city. And so it's very central in Europe. So I can then move, play concerts everywhere, promote myself all over Europe. But yeah, 10 years in London, it's a long time. If you lived in such a city for long enough, after a while, you just, you want for a little bit, who knows, maybe I'll be back. For now,
Yeah.
I just need a little bit of slower pace so I can focus more on production and promoting the music.
Yeah. And how was the culture shock like when you arrived in London? Because I understand that in Italy, you guys are very big on food. You're very specific about the food, and it's very good as far as I can understand it. But in London, it can be a bit different. It's not like Italy. It's definitely
Yeah.
not like Italy. So, amongst other things, how was the time for you? How was the culture shock for you?
Yeah. At the beginning, I mean, the first year, the first 2 years, you're a student, you arrive, so you're on like survival food, anyways.
Yeah.
And having an Italian mother, like she taught me how to cook the basic properly, like pasta, obviously, and all other Italian dishes. So
Yeah.
if I wanted like proper food, I could just make it myself. It's more when you get a little bit older and you start like working and you have a little bit more like less time to just like enjoy food. So if you always eat like food that is fast food or not good quality, then it starts wearing on you. So I think all the cultural shock was delayed by 5 years. So after 5 years I lived in London, I started noticing things that I didn't notice before.
Yeah.
First 5 years was just like university, like partying, like exploring. It was more rather than focusing on what's missing, focusing on what's there that I couldn't get before, like pub culture, coffee shops, like shopping, whatever you want, everywhere. But yeah, for food, I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that because if you ask my friends or my former flatmates, they see me cooking like just like eating beans straight from the can, like
Yeah.
literally just like pepper grind it in the Heinz can, salt, and just eat it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But generally speaking, how did you navigate your way around London and in terms of settling in and finding space
Mhm.
that speak to you and your music?
Yeah, the great thing about London is like if you don't have a band and you don't have like your own set list, you just wanna, even if you're just playing covers, you just wanna go out and just do and play. You have so much opportunity. There's at least 1,000 open mics. I'm like being realistic, even more. So you start with I say my journey started with open mics from pubs around my flat, my first flat. Then you go from open mics to gigs where you have other bands playing, and you start getting to know the promoters, and then you try to you discover places around. And there's so many that it's very, I would say, a little bit saturated. There's so much around in London. That you can find everything online if you want, or if you
Yeah.
just go anywhere and they will have live music. I'd say the best way if you want to go there and you don't know where to play, just you can follow bands that you like and see where they play, where they played, and go to those venues because they still do music, and then try to play there. It's quite easy to find venues to play and also decent venues. It's just a little bit hard, obviously, to promote yourself because there's so much competition, so many other bands, and people just like they on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, they have different things in their schedule.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, like to summarize, let's say open mics, then you start following bands and you see what kind of venues are around. If you're lucky enough to be in a vibrant area, like right now, I think it's more like South London. If you live around there, for example, you're a student, there's so much around that it's very local and like sort of underground, and there's a proper music scene. If you live just outside London, then you just have to can understand where these sort of arts scenes are in London, and from there they will you will find so many places.
Yeah, and because I understand that you like going to concerts and all over the place.
Yeah,
Which artist or band has been the most exciting for you to see play live?
yeah. I have to mention this band because I saw it at least like 7 times in London. And as a rule of thumb, every time they were in London, I went to see them. And they started quite small. The first gig that I saw them, we were like probably 30 people. And now the last time I saw them was 2 months ago, and they sold out a really great venue. The band is called Team Up Happy. They're based in Brighton.
Yeah,
And it's just, I wouldn't say it's the type of music that I play. They play grunge and stoner rock, or like proper rock and roll.
yeah,
But it's been the band I've been closest to in terms of following them just by accident, and just because I made it a tradition to see them. And luckily enough, they're actually really, really good. And live, they're one of the best bands that I ever saw.
yeah. And in terms of the overall concert experience,
Yeah.
which concert would you say has been the most exciting for you?
Um, my favorite has been Arcade Fire.
Yeah,
And I saw them, I think, 4 times as well, a couple of times in London. They're one band that just, I have to say, um, there's one thing for musicians when you see a live band and it's great, that you're loving it, and at the same time you're a little bit, you can't help to be a little bit jealous, or you have that feeling. They're like I'm enjoying it so much, but like you have this feeling like I wish I could be on stage and do that.
yeah,
Like I can't wait to do that. And the first time I saw Arcade Fire, and it was actually in Portugal at a festival, I had a complete different feeling, that it was more like I saw them playing and I just felt myself, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that,
yeah, yeah.
rather than feeling a little bit conscious and like I don't know if it's gonna happen, it's a dream. Like that time was like, I'm nowhere near to being on the stage, but yeah, that's what I want to do. So like I'm very attached to that band.
Yeah, I get that feeling as well because I DJ, and
Hmm.
when you are at a big concert or big festival or whatever, and you see other DJs playing, you kind of feel like, you know what, actually, I wish I could play. I wish I could be playing for this crowd myself. So I
Yeah.
know exactly what what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, when I listen to your music, I kind of hear the kind of music that one would hear when they're playing FIFA.
Nice.
Now, how would you describe your sound?
um so if we base it on the stuff that I published, because that's an EP that I recorded, I think 2 years ago, and I slowly published it. um I think back then I was very influenced. Like I started out writing that I was listening to like Arcade Fire, Kasabian, Arctic Monkeys, and that's when you say like FIFA songs, that's like Kasabian. So
Yeah,
like having something that hooks you in straight away, and a little bit like rock, but with some synthesizers, like a sort of electronic rock. So that's where I started. Also for the fact that I didn't I didn't know how to play guitars and bass back then,
mm,
just mostly synthesizer singing and drums. So I couldn't compose songs that were too much based on guitars, and so were more like more electronic, electronic rock. And I'd say at least for the song True Colors and the song called Naked that I published, they were very much like, I'd say, inspired by this kind of 2010s Brit rock, like guitar rock, like Kasabian and Arctic Monkeys. I was very influenced by the band called Archive as well. They do a lot of it's very much like electronic rock. Um, and lately, the last single, it's more, as you said at the beginning, it's more like disco at some points, more funky. And
Yeah.
that's a sound that I would really like to explore. And right now, the things I'm working on, it's a little bit more indie pop, more a little bit more stripped down. Things that I listen to is very much like Mac DeMarco and like this kind of bedroom pop vibe. So I vary a lot through the years, but in the end, I try to like always put it with my sound, and it also depends on the producer that I collaborate with.
Yeah, and I understand because I have one of your pictures where you are holding a guitar. Is the guitar the
Yeah.
only instrument that you play, or are there other instruments that you play?
So guitar I learned a little bit. So I use it like for demos, but I don't play it live. My main instrument is keyboard synthesizer when I
Okay.
play live.
Yeah.
But I try to compensate with all the other instruments, especially when I need to create demos and be free, that I don't have to wait for other players when I just want to write parts. So I started learning a little bit more, playing bass, playing the keyboards and different, sorry, the guitar, learning a little bit more so that I can be more creative when doing demos. Um, I found it very freeing instead of, because before it was very much I could only write the song and then I had to wait for friends that could play guitar or bass to come in and do the guitar lines and the bass lines. So a little bit guitar, but I'd say the keyboards is the one I'm most confident with.
Okay. Yeah, and I was also very curious because in terms of like your music style and your genre, how did you fall into indie pop, and why did you choose to stick with it?
Um, I think, I mean, for me, the most thing, because for musicians, it's very hard to just, the worst question, like the hardest question for me was always at the beginning when I was starting out, what kind of music do you do? Because like I could, the best thing is just like explain it through bands that I kind of like, but it was just at the beginning I didn't really know what my sound was,
Yeah.
and I think the most solid and consistent I've been was through indie pop in the last years. So even the songs that are out on Spotify, there could be different genres, but the way they play them live, there's I rearrange them a little bit with the band that I play, and the sound that comes in, it's very much I would call it indie pop or indie rock. So it's a little bit more less orchestration for the synthesizers. It's more based on the guitar and the bass and the drums. And I think I really like the vibe of the indie pop scene because it's still, I really like for the synthesizers to have these retro sounds from the 80s and 70s. And that's for me what indie pop is, having guitar riffs that are very much like indie rock, but then complementing them with something a little bit more melodic and a little more retro, a little bit more cheeky as well.
Yeah. All right. And as you say all of that, now I'm thinking because it's quite a lot. It seems like you really think about the music. You really think about how you want to do your music and why you want to do it that way. But where did the musical journey start for you exactly? When did you decide,
Yeah.
or when did you discover that actually, I love music and I love it so much that I actually want to do it? And it just so happens that I can sing as well. When did your musical journey start?
So weirdly enough, my first instrument was drums. I started out playing drums, and I was playing drums through middle school and high school. And at the same time, I was lucky to have a piano in my house. So I always played a little bit, but like my main instrument, the only one that actually I was taught properly was drums. Uh, but then playing the piano, and I started to like just playing around, trying to make songs, and I figure out for me that was more fun. I like the creativity, that kind of creativity of making songs and playing a melodic instrument. So I started doing that more and more. And when I moved to London, I couldn't bring my drum kits, and it's very hard to have a drum kit in a flat in London. So it was sort of like the context I was in and the enjoyment that I was getting from just playing melodic instruments. And so I started at the same time. I had different projects, one where I was playing drums and another one where I was singing and making songs with friends. And eventually the other one lasted longer. And I mean, all musicians are very, I'd say, vain, especially like singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
So once you get a taste of being on the stage and singing in front of a microphone, it's kind of hard then to go back. All the drummers that have done that turned into singers and playing something else, hardly go back once. It's a lot of vanity.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and all the other instruments is I'm at the core. I'm very lazy. So apart from drums, everything else I learned on my own. I did take vocal lessons at one point because I realized that you need an extra step for singing. You need to know how to sing properly.
Yeah.
But I'm very lazy in the sense that I'd rather just like slowly learn it on my own rather than having to go to lessons, which would be better. I would save myself like 5 years of career if I actually learned the instrument properly. But hey,
Yeah. Like, but in a journey of learning and discovering parts of yourself that you didn't know were there, what have been your biggest lessons as far as creating music is concerned, and also in what you have discovered about yourself that actually, you know what, I'm actually very good at this, or I've grown in this way.
yeah. So the biggest thing um, it was actually the moment where, like at that concert, I was saying, seeing Arcade Fire and like the energy they were bringing, and for the first time, not having that kind of itch to be wanting to get on stage, or like it was more of a feeling like sort of, I would like, let's call it a sort of calling of this is what I want to do. Like that's it. And then eventually I started. There was my last year of university, and I started doing different jobs. And then the second calling of I cannot do anything else but doing what I want to do, like doing the things that I like, and like deciding to go like full in, changing the sort of lifestyle of just working in office and do music on the side to just deciding no, I do music and anything else is secondary. So that was a big step, and I think it's something that musicians should do, like just accept that it's not just a dream. I think that having just a dream is it's just a fear, and the context you brought in and the society just not knowing any better of what you can actually achieve if you just do what you like to do. So yeah, and that allowed me, the third thing was having all the free time, obviously, to keep doing it and doing every day, and realizing that it doesn't matter what you're achieving one day in terms of practicing, composing, uh, instead of doing every day. Like it's literally a practice. Because I know in the beginning, like the frustrating bit was finding a sound, and especially with the voice, because I'm not a trained singer. So for me, it was like exploring what I can do with the voice at the same time, like exploring what I can do with the sound. And it was very hard to just write vocal lines that I could be happy with, that I wouldn't cringe listening my voice back to. And I noticed like after 1 year of just doing every day something, little things, then you can finally understand, okay, this is what I'm good at in terms of sound, like the strength, and I don't need to force other things that I want to fit in, just do the things that come more naturally. But unless you do it every day, I don't think you can realize what comes natural.
Yeah. No, that's very true, actually. That is very true. Now, I want us to go back a little bit to your early days, like in high school, like maybe even primary school. Who were your musical influences? As
Yeah,
far as who were you listening to back then as a child, and what the kind of artists that basically formed the kind of artist that you are today as well.
yeah. Uh, I'm trying to think how long like I can keep this without having this to be the whole
Yeah,
next
no, don't
hour.
worry, don't worry. We
Um,
got the time. We got this time.
yeah, yeah. So like chronologically, I mean, I think the beginning, it's just you absorb everything that can fit into, well, back then, a MP3 player
Yeah,
that your friends would pass you. So like commercial music. I think the earliest memory of enjoying um, a band properly was Queen,
yeah,
because my parents were listening to Queen, and it was everybody knew Queen. But like the first time that I listened to a song and I felt it as a band playing something, like recording something, I think that was Queen. But I would see there was still legacy music that I didn't discover myself. Um, the first song that I put on loop for like days was Faint by Linkin Park. And so I
yeah,
had my whole like new metal rock phase started there. Um, Green Day, I listened a lot to Green Day when I was in elementary school. Um, so like the punk rock era as well. But yeah, Linkin Park I listened to a lot, and I bought CDs. And then I think the biggest one when I grew up and also musically was Muse. That for Muse, I think I was obsessed. Like I knew everything. I saw them live twice. Knew every single song. Read their biography. So I think that's been the band that I knew most about, and I digested everything they've done up until the fourth or fifth album.
yeah,
um, but I think that one was the time where I kind of realized that you can do even something more with music. That it doesn't have to be just one genre, like rock or punk rock. And Muse brought like all these like classical music influences and prog rock and pop, and they had a little bit of Queen as well. So they've been massive in terms of my musical experience. They don't necessarily resonate with the music that I do, but for when I was a teenager, they uh, I carried them along for a
yeah,
while, and then eventually from Muse then came more like listening to Pink Floyd, a little bit more prog music, and then Radiohead. And I think Radiohead is probably for me the best band
yeah.
ever. uh, so Radiohead is the longest running.
Longest.
Like I don't really listen to music anymore. Radiohead, I think I probably listen till the day I die.
Yeah,
Um, they've been huge in terms of uh, mm, the mechanics of music and sound and what you can achieve while still being very appealing and commercial.
mm,
I'd say Radiohead. And then obviously the whole indie rock era of the 2010s, Arctic Monkeys, Kasabian, Arcade Fire, um, all the whole scene. Franz Ferdinand I listened to a lot. So I'd say that when I grew as a teenager, or little, yeah, as a teenager in high school, that was my thing, like indie rock.
yeah.
Um, I'd say yeah. So to keep it there, then there's so much more. Um, to go back a little grew up also listening to a lot of classical music from my parents. So that I wouldn't say it influenced me, but it's just I really, really love classical music too.
Yeah. All right. Now, taking it forward to today with your music, do you have a particular process that you go through when creating music?
Yeah, it keeps changing, but the one that I found very useful that I kind of started like 6, 7 months ago, because I sat down, I had the idea of I just wanna, because I came out with the EP, the EP, and those were songs that I recorded with a producer, and between them they're very different musically, but thematically they're sort of the same.
Yeah,
So I sat down and I felt like let's just pick one of my next songs, the one that I like most, and develop at least 8 to 10 songs around it. So to have something a little bit more cohesive as a whole. Um, so I put myself, I opened one project on Logic, and I put limits in terms of what guitar tones, maximum 2 guitar tones, one clean and one a little bit more distorted, 2 types of voice, one type of drum sound, 2 synths max. So putting a lot of limits, and I
yeah,
started writing like basically horizontally on the project without adding anything else, and just sitting down, like working on one song, and I started composing. Okay, this is good, and like creating one song, and then a second song, and then something that I didn't know what it was, just put it there. I still have the space to record it. So having this approach of one project, very limited in terms of sounds, but all the ideas that I'm gonna have between now and in 6 months it's all gonna record it with these presets.
yeah,
And I found that like very like hugely productive, because it allowed me to start writing songs with the mentality of how do they fit all together. So the sound is very consistent. And right now, that's the next thing that I want to record. And it's around 8 to 9 songs. Maybe I'm going to record 2 or 3, like maybe the ones that are actually sound good. It's like 3 or 4, I don't know. But it was very freeing in the sense that I felt like I could write whatever I wanted. I felt a lot of freedom because I didn't have the pressure of
yeah,
opening another project, and it's like, okay, now what kind of sounds do I want for this one, for this song, but it's a little bit more funky, so let's do it. No, just these are the sounds, doesn't matter, and like whatever I'm gonna write right now, it's gonna sound uh, it's gonna have this specific sound because I already put those brackets. I don't know, I found it very stimulating, very creative.
yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a very long process, especially for someone like myself. I don't make music myself, but it sounds like a very long process. But also at the same time, I can hear that it's something that you properly planned, and it's something that really works for you.
Yeah, like and again, it goes, I think, with the effect of just do something every day.
Yeah,
Like with in this case, after a while and doing something every day, I realized, I like this type of synthesizer sound. So let's just stick to that. I've done enough exploration in that realm of sounds. So for now, let's just stop and see what I can do with this one. And the same thing with other for the guitar sounds. And it takes away all the distraction for finding sounds, and then
yeah,
you just focus on writing. And no
yeah,
matter what you write, to use gonna sound good, because at that time that's exactly the sound that you wanna have. Maybe all the songs sound the same, and then you need to rewrite them. But to start with, that's perfect. Then you have so many songs to choose from.
yeah. Now, you recently released a single called "Absent Eyes."
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious about the title of the song,
Yeah.
"Absent Eyes." Why that title, and what is the song about?
Um, so to the song itself, I remember writing it. Um, it was a sort of writer's block in terms of lyrics.
Mm,
I had had the 2 chords because I was playing around. It's a classical piece from Eric Satie. It's a very popular one, so probably better not to talk too much about it, otherwise they see me as a fraud. But it was 2 chords that I really liked, and I didn't feel like I don't want to go anywhere else. I just want to stay here. But it was back before I had this. regimental practice of doing something every day, so I didn't really know what I could do with my voice to make it sound like something that I would like listen back to.
Yeah.
And it was literally coming out of the frustration of I literally don't know what to write, so I just started like line by line, just things that came out of my mind, and that kind of within themselves, the lines kind of sounded cool. So I just put them all together and reworked them a little bit. So they're not very cohesive in terms of having a narrative, I'd say. They're more evocative. Um, but it fit really well. And then the more I was working with it and was tweaking here and there, the theme that that was emerging was because it was inspired by this classical piece that was during Eric Satie was an impressionist, and during the impression days in Paris, there was a lot of absinthe drinking, and you could see in the paintings as well
Yeah.
this sort of like um, kind of like daydreaming and like strive to like just escape and just express yourself directly without having to properly frame something. And so that's the main thing, like this feeling of just get it all out and express yourself, and it's all a mix of that, I'd say.
Yeah. No.
Absinthe is I probably have to mention it, like my girlfriend has sort of similar eyes, so it
Okay.
fits even better, you know.
No, that's very interesting. Now, as you mentioned, Paris, right? Because we're okay. I'm gonna deviate a little bit from the
Yeah.
music. As you mentioned, Paris. I just remembered that you mentioned quite a lot of countries that you've been to. Do
Mhm.
you know how many countries you've been to your entire life?
uh, I wish there were more,
Yeah.
especially because I'm surrounded by people that have traveled a lot. But by number, it's if I've been to England, Germany, Australia, like Europe, most of it,
But yeah.
uh, Poland as well, and Croatia. The furthest away was Nepal,
Okay.
and then South Africa, Cape Town, and United States in California and New
Yeah.
York. I've never been to South America. That's going to be my next one.
Mm.
And I've been, yeah, and China as well, and never been to Australia.
Yeah. No, that's a lot. That's a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, yeah, yeah. I mean, with the way that your music sounds, I really believe that you are pretty much going to travel the entire world eventually, and your music is going to take you there.
Yeah, I hope
Now,
so.
yeah. Now, I suppose, in a way, talking about traveling, what's one particular stage, or that you want to be seen on, playing on? That when you think
Hmm.
about the music, you dream about the concerts that you've been to, or concert that you want to go to. Which stage particularly would you want to be seen playing on?
I mean, Glastonbury, like who wouldn't want to, in
Yeah,
terms of festival? Glastonbury, Reading, the big ones, Coachella. Um, but I think having playing your own concert is probably more rewarding.
yeah,
Like right now, like if I have to think like my next steps, uh, I'm not too sure. I don't know too many around Europe in terms of small size. For big size, of course, you have Wembley.
yeah,
That's like the ultimate, or Madison Square Garden. But in terms of a little bit smaller, more underground, good question. I'm not too sure. One that I really like, and I reached out, and probably I'll have to reach out when I'm a little bit more famous. It's in Brussels.
yeah,
It's called Ensemble Belgique. That's mostly because all the bands that I love, they all played there. And it feels weird because it's in Belgium. You wouldn't expect it to be where all the cool bands go, but that
yeah.
one is. is a really cool one. It seems like they have a great crowd there for especially the type of music that I do. They kind of influence the band that influenced me. All of them that played there.
Yeah.
So that's the only one that comes to mind because I actually reached out to them, still hoping for an answer.
Yeah. No, man, I believe you'll get an answer. You'll get an answer one of these days.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, in terms of your music, like your body of works, so far you've released just one EP. Can we expect any new body of work coming from you anytime soon?
There's gonna be a new single. I can say this because I just met with the producer earlier,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be hopefully end of November or beginning of December.
Yeah.
It's gonna produce it here in Italy with a friend of mine from my hometown, and it's a little bit more pop, I would say. It still has a little bit of retro sound and the kind of um, mm, type of melodies that I normally do. I'd say
Yeah.
more similar to Absinthe, so that's the trajectory.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have a title yet. Right now it's called Double Espresso, but I can think of something better.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the next one, and I'm going to start recording at the beginning of November the next EP. Hopefully, it's going to be an album.
Yeah.
It depends if I can afford to do a whole album. But that's the next body of work, and that's the one I was saying that it's where I put all these brackets in terms of sounds, and I wrote like 10 different songs.
Yeah.
And that one, hopefully I can start finishing producing by next spring and start releasing song by song.
All right. I'm looking forward to hearing that single that is coming next, and I'm also looking forward to the EP, which hopefully will become an album, whatever it is when you eventually release it or finish it. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Is there any particular artist that you would love to work with?
And like in terms of like big artists.
It doesn't matter.
It
Let's
doesn't
do
okay.
both.
The
Yeah.
word is my oyster. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right now, in terms of like electronic sounds, I really like this French. It's two different artists, but they collaborated together. They're from, I think, Marseille, south of France.
Yeah.
The one is Kid Francescoli, and the other one is French 79. In terms of making like disco music, if I could just call them and say how much, and and hire them, like I would do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's very like disco, like French touch, French pop, like very retro, like 70s, 80s, modernized. And I don't know, like it's hit singles after hit singles for me. I
Yeah.
would say right now the biggest one. In terms of production and creating sounds, the other one is for me is Stone Lux from New York. They did recently. They did the soundtrack for Everything Everywhere All at Once, the
Yeah.
movie. They just the things that they can create with sounds, and they do mostly everything. It sounds a little bit like electronic pop, but everything they record is always instruments, acoustic
Yeah.
instruments. They just or electric guitars. They just rework them and produce them in a way that it sounds something out of this world. So
Yeah.
having them producing some of my music that could take it somewhere I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. No, that's very exciting. That's very exciting. I know that you eventually you will work with your dream. You'll have your dream collaborations eventually. Now, is there a particular message that you want to send through your music?
Uh, mm, it's for me like the best thing that I can do personally because I'm not very much of a storyteller
Mm.
and a lyricist. for like singer-songwriters. I'm not Bruce Springsteen or Bob Dylan. So for me, like the best that I can do is just to like fully express the feeling, the emotion that I'm feeling that I hear when I come up with something. Um, so if I'm feeling like I just wanna not think about things, and but with a little bit of melancholy because I'm still a little bit sad, that's the feeling the song rather than or what are the lyrics are trying to tell you in terms of. So I will try to thematically put them there, but sometimes maybe the lyrics don't really match. For me, the most important thing is what you're getting out emotionally out of a song without having to
Yeah.
pay too much attention on the
Yeah.
lyrics. I'd say that's the best thing I can do because I'm not too good at writing lyrics or telling story through music.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and I understand that. I understand that. Now, before we close, I just have this one more question for you. Where do you see yourself 5 years from today?
Ah. Um, the main goal is to just to be able to do music
Mm.
and play around concerts. I used to be, obviously, when I was younger, my idea was very, oh, I need to play Wembley when I'm 30 or like have a successful, but like you don't really understand what being successful is.
Yeah.
So right now, like I toned it down in terms of, I wouldn't say ambition, but in terms of like even like what I can get into if I can just do this and I just do music like literally every day because obviously now I still need to I'm independent and I still need to do different jobs that have nothing to do with music.
Yeah.
Um, if like in 5 years I can do music and it pays the bills, like wow, and only do that, and then from there build on top and travel around Europe first, and then traveling to the States and in different continents. That's even great.
Yeah.
It just I realize um, how how easy is to forget to be just grateful about doing the craft. Um, uh, yeah, and if it's just like the mentality should just be if I can only do this and not worry about anything else, that's the goal.
Yeah.
And hopefully everything else comes on top in terms of oh, but you also have a million streams and you sell out concerts. That's probably secondary unless you kind of have this feeling of like oh, I can just do this,
Yeah.
just surviving out of music. Wow.
Yeah. No, man. I really believe in your music, and I really believe in you. I know that you're gonna get to where you want to go, and you where you see yourself in 5 years. I believe that you'll be there. You'll be there 5 years from today. Now, I don't have anything else that I want to know from you. I don't have anything else to ask, but I'm very curious to know. Before we close. What is the one thing that you would love to say?
Um, it sounds cliche, but just like if you feel like you want to do it, like you have the pain of I'm not doing what I want to do.
Yeah,
Uh, like just allow yourself to first accept that that's not just like a whimsical thought that you have for many years. It's literally what you're supposed to do, and you will probably contribute to you, people around you, and your society more if you're literally just doing what you like to do.
yeah,
I mean, it sounds very cliche, but it sounds very uh, mm, not
yeah,
very practical. It's just if everyone had this mentality, then we just I don't know, we would be happier.
yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think it sounds cliche, because it's actually one of the things that I really believe in. That if you want to do something, just go and do it. If
Yeah.
you believe that it will bring you fulfillment and it will make you happy, just go and do it. And there's really nothing that is stopping you from achieving whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to achieve. The world, as you said, that the world is your oyster. So yeah, I
Mhm.
really believe in everything that you just said.
Yeah.
Ed, it's been a wonderful time, almost an hour spent with you.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
I'm very happy. I'm having a good time. But unfortunately, we have to part ways. But I'm looking forward to one day meeting you, and I know
Yeah.
that will definitely happen. Either I'll be in wherever you are, whatever part of the world you are, because you are quite the traveler, and
Yeah.
hopefully be able to meet. But yeah, that is all from me. Thank you very much, Ed. Uh, as
Thank
the
you for having me.
oracles, yeah, as the oracles, we really believe in you, and we really believe in the music. Thank you very much for sharing your story and your time with us, and we're looking forward to the next time. Yeah.
Can't wait. Thank you so
Uh,
much again. It was fun.
yeah. That is all from us from the oracles. We will be back again next week with a brand new episode, and hopefully Z will be here as well next time. That is it from us. Until then, cheers.